Hangouts on air. So this is the Hangout for, let's just see whether it's coming through on the other screen here. This should be, if you're on the Hangout page in ClickFunnels, refresh that. That's not you, Julie. And it should be coming live there now. And let's see if that's working. It should be. This is actually a public Hangout, and I've made it available to anybody that's going to be watching this. So, what are we going to be doing today? Hey, my name is Benedict Howard. Welcome. I'm very excited to be here today and to just talk about a little bit about the graduations that have been happening in the last month out of my wellness training and coaching, and also to just go over some. I wanted to introduce people to some of the other units which I haven't. Excuse me, I need to grab and get them closer here. We'll be talking about the ENOT 911. I'm going to go over the written one. I have some written news as well. And of course, faithful one, the PCM. And so what I want to do now is to, let's see. When we have a healing tool, or any idea, or any concept, or any book or teaching that is completely revolutionary to the way that we've been thinking in the past, it's very, very difficult to get that information across. It's very difficult to help people change their whole lives compared to how their life was before. And I think we're in the place in this planet, as we've been seeing with computer technology over the last 20 years, it's like that has really been on a huge paradigm shift for all of us. We, like this Google Hangout here, we've got like this ability to talk internationally, instantly, in video like we are now. And when we're talking about this wellness training that and coaching that I do, my specialty is in these microcurrent biofeedback units. So they are like the ENOT 911 here, which I'll talk about in a little bit and show you some of the stuff. This is the old faithful, the DENAS, or this is the DENAS PCM. It's actually the Russian unit. Get the sun off it. And excuse my shade here. It's kind of sunny here this morning. Well, it is Hawaii. And this is my very first. Actually, the screen here has just fallen off. My very first scanner, and this I bought from Professor Ravenko back in '03, I think it was. So this is now 12 years old and still going strong. And what they all do is basically, if you look back to the Russian clinical trials back in the 80s, they had this 88.50% cure rates across all of the disease groups. Now, this is the mid-80s. And since then, we've got better at it, but there's also been compromising situations on our planet that has made it more difficult to achieve those results, too. So even though they were looking at blood, they were looking at all of the different systems in the body and working with them. They got that 88.50% cure rate average across all the disease spectrums. And in say the musculoskeletal group, they're more or less up in the 100%. And so it's a phenomenal tool, and I want to talk a little bit about why it works and how it works, and also to introduce you to, I see John's here. That's great, and we've got and we've got Julie here too. And welcome, guys. I'm just going to check this other page and see if it's running. It should be, and I need to take the volume down on that so it's not interfering. Now, the page that members will be seeing, it's cut off. Okay, so that's good. Here we are. It's going live on the other page too. So there's when the way that these work is from the electricity, which is microcurrent biofeedback, or microcurrent, little tiny little tingles of electricity, so that when the unit is on and you put it on your skin, you feel like tiny little tingles. And it does a whole plethora of things. Now, one of the paradigm shifts that I've been embracing in my own life is the very nature of electricity as to what it is and how it is that it does what it does. And the more I've experimented and more experience I get with this over the last many decade and plus, I am getting a better model and understanding of how this works. So it's not only is it an antioxidant, it delivers electrons or electricity to the body, but it also is a great muscle relaxant. It's a phenomenal pain reliever, and also it will deal with different type of infections as well. So when you have pain in the body, it's the pathogens, the pain generating, from the Greek pain generating. The pathogens are actually creating the pain, and so we can really quickly diminish the pain levels. And also, the way that the signal is designed, it actually encourages the body to release this pharmacopoeia of neuropeptides. And it's a very complex subject, but basically there's endorphins in there, and there's many mind-body stimulants, 5-HTP, serotonin, etc. So automatically what's happening is that if you're stressed out, you get more relaxed, and if you're having trouble sleeping, you can sleep better, simply because you've got, say, more of the serotonin in the body. But there's like 120, 118, I think it is, of these different chemicals that are released in the body, and they're totally organic to the body. Now, talking about organic and natural, the waveform from these microcurrent devices is the same or similar. It's mimicking the brain, the waveform, or the electrical waveform coming down our nerve fibers, and so it's very organic to the body, and in that sense it totally complements any other system or any other practice that you're doing with your body, and so in that complementary mode, there's no real contraindicators. There is one, I think, that the Russians talk about, but actually we've been using it on pregnant women, and with great result and no side effects. And that was one of the contraindicators. And the other one was a pacemaker. And actually the new pacemakers are pretty tolerant to all of this stuff, but we just avoid working with those people unless you know how to do it. So that's where my training and coaching comes in. And this month, August, we're now in September, so this is for graduates of the last month. We had one guy, Christopher Hoffman, who graduated out of the level 1, Ninja 1, and he has been traveling between China, Russia, and the United States during his training, and it's been very interesting to monitor his what's been going on there. One of the big things that's been going on for him, and congratulations, Chris. I'm sorry you couldn't make it on this call right now, because I really wanted to have you here in person, because Chris had a phenomenal win. One of his clients is the top swimmer in China, and he was working with him before he came into the training program. He was working with him because he had major shoulder and arm issues, and actually was out of the race. And Chris brought him back to win 2 golds and a silver in the Russian Games about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so congratulations, Chris. It's just phenomenal to be working with an individual like yourself, and to really help you to get into how to use these units in your application, which is basically sports medicines. And I'm honored to have you in the training there. So congratulations on getting through Ninja 1. I know we've been trying to get on the line to cover some of the Ninja 2 stuff together one-on-one. And the last time we were on the line, due to the hurricane that we've had just pass through, or passed by us, in Hawaii last week. When we were on the last hangout, it's literally, we were like 10 minutes into the discussion, and then all hell let loose around here. We had like flashbangs, like thunder lightning coming in like instantaneously, and everything folded up. So that was like a one little window of opportunity that we had to discuss some of the Ninja 2 things, which is basically an extreme way that we use these devices to relieve neck and shoulder and pain in the shoulder area. And it is a ninja. It really is kind of a gnarly thing to be doing, and but the relief is absolutely phenomenal. And so congratulations to you, Chris. We also have a new member. Oh, yeah, a couple of other people. David I forget how to pronounce his name, David Breuer. Excuse me, David, if I've mispronounced your last name. He's an IBM executive, also traveling between the States and China. So he's been using and learning how to use this device for mainly more for first aid stuff, like when traveling, so that you know, when you come down with an infection, he can very quickly get rid of the infection. Or if he has, you know, aches and pains from sitting in the plane for too long, he can work with that, and he's very, very satisfied with the way that he's been able to handle situations in travel, which, as you know, is like can become very problematic. If you come down with the flu, you have, you know, what are you going to do in China, you know? And so he's been able to monitor or to I don't like to use the word cure. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not eligible. I'm not licensed to talk about cures. However, as far as David was concerned in this incident, actually with the food poisoning and the and the and the and the flu type symptoms, he was able to get rid of them overnight, and the next day he woke up fresh and able to go to work and work with his clients there. So it's a phenomenal tool that way too. So congratulations, David, on getting through the Ninja One. And we have another chiropractor who's just come into Ninja One. He hasn't graduated out of that yet. We're hearing more from him next month, and so we're looking forward to his progress, and also to the two people that we have in the call here, Julie and John. Julie, it's been a ride, and John, it's great to see you here too. Julie, let me just put you on the screen here. There we go. And I think I'm getting some feedback from you, Julie. I think what's happening. I'm going to just see if I can run with it, because I'm hearing myself in double. But maybe you'd like to share what's been going on for you, Julia, just a little bit, and touch base.
Yeah, I've been a little out of touch. I was in the middle of the Ninja 3 and traveling, and just the summer being away. So I was using my scanner every day, but just haven't been caught up with the group. So I'm happy to jump back in and get back in touch with everybody.
Cool, Julie. So, yeah, and you had
go ahead.
Yeah, you had a major setback this last month, and it was like, oh my God, my heart went out to you.
Yeah.
And it seems like you've pulled through. How's it going?
I'm doing well. It's just all related to this, the system, the spinal cord. So just the general, just using the daily use, it's great. I use the Ninja 2 every single day. I love that. I use this massage unit is what I found I can get in there easier. I have a little bit of trouble with the unit, but that's working well. This morning, I think I sent you a message. I don't think I can come on today because I really had a horrible headache. It was like a migraine. So I was able to get that under control, just putting this on my head, and I just found the nerves here that kind of shot up through where the pain was, and it's nearly gone now. So that's just so amazing.
That's
so
sweet,
yeah,
really.
Still wanting to learn more with the Ninja 3, but just I'm using it daily. It's just the keeping up with the logging of everything. I've been pretty bad about that, but very happy.
Good. So on the Ninja 3, how many sessions have you had on you?
Nobody's done it for me. That's my problem.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to double check in on you.
That's what's been the problem. Just so much travel, and I tried it on my husband a couple times, and then haven't been able to get a chance to teach him yet. So I could really use that, actually. It's probably what I need.
Yeah, I think that would make a huge difference to you, because that Ninja 3 really addresses the complete system.
Yeah.
And so that would be the way to go for you. So if you can if you can twist his arm this month, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, I will say with the problems I was having, a lot of pins and needles almost constant in my hands, just from that location of the spine, and in my feet. I had paralyzation in my feet for a couple weeks. They're normal. The hands are still tender, and I have some weakness, but the pins and needles is much less. So I really attribute that to using the scanner on my neck and just doing the Ninja 2 as well. So.
Right.
Keep doing it.
Yeah, and the cyst in your spine, that's the major one, isn't it? It's
That's the major
impinging on.
problem. Yeah. It's just so
Right.
that any inflammation or stress, anything that causes me to tense my neck, and so that's what the problem was this month, was just emotional things going on. That tightens up, and then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it hits the nerves and everything goes mostly down the arms and hands. So that's my main battle, is just keeping inflammation down and stress down, and then it's pretty manageable. But definitely, I don't know what I would do pain relief without the scanner. It's awesome.
It is so awesome. It's freaking awesome.
I've been
Yeah.
able to be no medicines at all. I have my doctor's given me loads of prescriptions, but I haven't had to take any. So.
Right. And just to preface this, what I'm about to say, I'm not a medical doctor, and nor is Julie, but this this echo is like huge. Um, but Julie's been had Lyme disease, and that is what's been diagnosed for you, right? And you've been using Rife machines, and actually Julie's become a real expert at working with this disease spectrum and helping others too. So it's, you know, all of these things that come to us, you know, offer another level of understanding and reality in the end. And it's like, because of my spine stuff and the way that the wall fell on my neck, you know, I got to this level of expertise too. So it's phenomenal stuff how life gives us this opportunity.
Exactly.
Cool. And was there anything else, Julie?
No, I'm just trying to catch up and keep learning, and that's about it.
Great. Okay. I'm going to mute you now and see if John would like to join us. I don't know if he's there or not. I don't see him physically. Not too sure. But if John, if you want to just jump in later on, please do, and we can take it from there. So, you know, I was earlier on talking about this whole paradigm shift and the ability of the brain to move on, but a lot of us don't want to have that change. And one of the things that happens when you're using devices like this or any of these healing technologies, from a non-allopathic model, the body needs to, the more energy it gets from herbs or whatever it is that you're doing, in this case in the electricity, the more energy that the body gets, the more ability it has to drop off and to let go of these old situations that have been compromising our physical bodies. And when that happens, of course, there's a big shift that happens, and that is that the body goes into what's called a healing crisis. And this can last from a few hours to a few days. And so it's important to understand that you know, when the body has this ability to heal, and it's innately in it. And despite all of the glycophosphate, despite of all of the chemicals in the atmosphere, despite of all of that, there are ways and there are technologies, and this is one of them, to be able to help the body get back to its natural state and to detox even heavy metals with this technology too. So it's like the Russians did phenomenal work back in the 80s in terms of developing the biofeedback components of the devices. And so I was going to share a little bit about this, because in my way of thinking, the information out there around SCANA, which is the acronym, the big acronym for this type of device, I prefer to call it microcurrent biofeedback. The reason is, and I'll be quite honest and open with this, is that back in 2010, the corporation SCANA actually closed down all of my websites and effectively shut down my business. And because they had, at that time, just got a trademark through for the word SCANA, which actually had been at that time, I don't know, it's like 20 years in the public domain. And and then they lost that trademark, and then I got back into the business here, and I've kept on going. And then just last week, or was it 10 days ago, I got another notice from from YouTube, from the lawyers at RITM, which is the people that make the scanner devices, that they wanted me to shut down the use of the word scanner in all of my literature and all of my hundreds of videos that I have up on YouTube, and etc., etc., etc. Well, having gone through this close down with them previously, I just responded very forcibly legally with them and ordered them to cease and desist from harassing me. That this name, I am using the name Scanner as a, every time I use it, it helps their business. It's like, why would you not want it? And yeah, there are other scanners out there, and that's what I want to go over today, because there's a lot of disinformation around these units. The primary piece of disinformation is that only the true scanner works, and that's the device which has. And then somebody was talking about the true scanner signal. Well, nobody actually defined the true scanner signal. So it was kind of like, a marketing thing. And then more recently, the top of this company, which, where's the camera? ENOT, which is actually LET Medical. This one is now, in my opinion, the top unit on the planet. It's the ENOT 911, and I'm going to show you through it a little bit. Now, these units, these units are the main staples out there on the market. The RITM, which is this one, and the ENOT, which is this one. And basically they have almost identical scanner signals to them. Now, what has been going on, of course, is that as the market developed, there were different needs in different categories of the market. So what they found is that by changing the way that waveform, which at the beginning of the call I said was basically harmonizing or organic to the body in terms of the nerve signal coming down the fibers, that waveform has been over the years modified ever so slightly. And one of the waveforms that they modified was with this unit, which was the ENOT, and they realized that there were certain devices were really good at doing different jobs. I mean working on different systems within the body. And so they evolved this unit phenomenally in the ENOT 911. Now, prior to this ENOT 911, this same group started to manufacture the Cosmodic. It's not cosmetic, it's Cosmodic, C-O-S-M-O-D-I-C. And that unit became very popular because it was very easy to use, and it didn't create the healing crises in the body. In fact, it was designed not to have the healing crisis. And so it became much more popular with people because they didn't go through the healing crisis nearly as readily as they would with prior devices. Now, the problem there again is that although healing crisis can be a very arduous process for some people, especially if you've been heavily compromised. And however, it is necessary in my opinion, it's necessary for the body to go through that. If you take any herb, if you take any tincture, and it's right on, or any homeopathy, and it's right on in terms of resonating the body into a higher level of resonance, then that body is going to have headaches and maybe a flu-like symptoms, and even vomiting and sometimes diarrhea, as it detoxes all of this old stuff out of the system, because now the body has the power to do it. So the Cosmodics were marketed, they were high-end units. They were in the $5,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 price range. And they got a good name out there because they were marketed that way. But now what's happened is that with the ENOT 911, that Cosmodic that cosmetic signal isn't even included in that one because it's not nearly as good as what we have in the eNOT 911. Now, what do I mean by that? Why isn't it so good? Well, the eNOT 911 has such a plethora of settings on it that it would take me, actually it would take you several months to learn what they all do. And it's and because of those extra settings in there, it really makes it into a professional unit that when you're working on somebody else professionally, 24/7 or whatever, in the office every day, then it is a really handy unit to have around because you can very quickly do different stuff with it, or more quickly do it. And so the eNOT 911 is actually my favorite unit, but it costs coming in at 3,000 plus training. It's a pricey unit. Now, of course, the DENAS line, which I started playing with, that's DENAS. How do we get that on the camera here? And the DENAS line, I started playing with back in 2007, and that's when they had a little curved device called the DENAS, and we call it now the DENAS Classic. And occasionally, if you can find them on eBay as a second-hand unit, and if you see them there, I would grab it because it, even though it's a very ultra-simple unit, it has just one. It has basically two different speeds on it. It is phenomenally easy to use because of the electrode configurations. Now, the electrode configurations, here's comparison, right? I can't. Oh, where are we? Okay, that one comes in. Here we've got a square one on the eNOT and this round one on the DENAS. And over here, comparatively speaking, we've got like a, how do we get this over that way? This is another square type of electrode. There's the two comparisons. Now, these units, now Julie was holding up the brush comb attachment that she had earlier on, and she was holding it to her. That's interesting. I just put you on. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, just hold that up again, would you, Julie? Yeah, perfect. So this one has more of the ability to slide over the skin. And that sliding over the skin is really, really important because it allows you to get electricity into all areas of the body. And I'm getting phenomenal feedback here. Why is that? Let's see. I'm going to mute you, John. There we go. Maybe that's what it was. And from that feedback, and by being able to brush all of the body with these units, you're tingling all of the energy. You're tingling all of the energy meridians. You're literally, it's like jump starting the body. If you're feeling down or down physically or down mood-wise, emotionally, it is super quick to bring you back. In fact, when my boys, I have two boys, one is 12 and the other one's 14 now, and teenagers, they're going to be going into their mood swings. And fortunately, I still have a rapport with the 14-year-old, is that when he does crash like that, I come out and we do the Ninja 3 on him, Julie. And instantly, he's changed. I mean, it doesn't take long to do it, maybe 5-10 minutes. And instantly he's changed. The other thing that the kids love, and they will jump on the massage table here, is just for me to brush them down. And so I brush them down and brush all of their body down, and of course it harmonizes things and allows the body to settle, and it allows the body to relax, and it gives them energy. And what's so cool about this is that when you're changing that mood, especially in a teenager, that quick, it's allowing the body to respond instead of that high, which must be an imbalance in their hormonal stuff. When you can bring that back into resonance very quickly, it's not allowing them in their brain to get into this, oh, I'm stuck in this thing, and everybody's, I don't want to see anybody, mom and dad, I don't want anything to do with them. It allows them to shift back very easily into their natural cooperative, happy state. And so I'm, with Sterling, the eldest one, it's a great honor to be able to work with him that way, and also to see the changes in him, and also not allow him to get into this pattern of, oh, I'm in this down state, and because he's been pulled out of it all the time when you do the electrical stim on him. So it's not anchoring in his body so firmly. So I think in the long run, and I'm sure actually in the long run, it'll allow his teenage process to be a lot more smooth than it was for most of us, including myself. And so that's just one of these things. It's like the electricity does so much in the body. We were looking at that 88.50% cure rates. When that was across all of the disease spectrums that they tested back then, and there was a huge number. It was blood, there was reproductive, there was the different organs, there was musculoskeletal, there was brain stuff, there was like all sorts of stuff that was going on for folks that they were testing on 18,255 people. So it's a pretty thorough clinical trial. And the nature and the way, and this is the whole paradigm shift, is that the way that this electricity works in the body is because it is actually sourcing in energy that is outside of this realm. Now, what do I mean by that? Normally, we think of electricity as being electrons flowing down the wire, or electrons reacting between, two chemical reactions in the body, or donating electrons, or taking electrons away, and that sort of a thing. But electricity is actually way more than just that aspect of free electrons. It literally is how I discovered this is by going back actually to some of Tesla's early work, and well, actually I didn't do it, somebody else did. His name is Dolan Robert. It'll come to me in a moment. But actually he was doing Tesla's experiments back when he was a teenager. And he's now, this man is he's about my age, he's about 65 or so. And then so from there he kept on working with this, and he came up with a whole different way of looking at electricity, which is more of Tesla's way. And basically it's the electricity that is in the universe here controls everything, and it's like it delivers from another realm this life force energy that's coming to the body. Now, of course, all plants, if you were to drive a nail into a tree and then measure the voltage between a grounded, put a ground in the soil and measure the voltage between that spike and the tree, it's about 0.1 of a volt. Now, all living systems have this voltage system. That's what makes the living system live, is because there's this electricity that's in the body. So whether it's a tree or it's an animal or it's us, we all are dependent on electricity. And when that energy is deprived from us, for instance, when we walk with rubber shoes that have a sole that's insulating us from the earth, we're not getting that natural frequencies and electricity from the earth into our bodies. And so what happens then is that the bodies deplete of this energy, and when it depletes, it cannot respond to the very severe pollutions that we have going on in the planet and in our food and in our air nearly so easily, and everything becomes more and more and more compromised until eventually the organs themselves become compromised, and that shows up in the way that they're functioning or not. But what happens with the electricity is it very quickly brings back that energy to the body. So no matter, actually, I was like, I did an experiment earlier on, and that was when I was looking at, when I was looking at the signal coming out of these devices, out of the electrodes, I was going like, well, maybe not, and so I actually made some electrodes, and I just put pure 12 volts into those electrodes, and there wasn't any frequency or oscillation or sine wave or pulse DC wave coming out of it. It was just a pure DC current. And I found that we could do some of the things, especially with getting rid of infections, we could do some of the things that we could do with the scanner, actually more effectively in terms of like using a foot bath and having electrodes in the foot bath and putting some sea salt in it to get the conductivity, is that it worked really well. So it began to make me think, what is this thing about electricity? You know, what is going on there? Because if this is working with just normal DC current, which is what you would tap into when you put the spike in the tree and then you measure it between the earth and the tree, that is just a DC, it's not pulsed. Yes, it does go up and down with the moon cycles, for instance. It does go up and down during the day and the night, the amount of electricity in there, because the sun and the photosynthesis and the whole way that that electricity from the sun is working with the plant. And so I really began to question what it was about the signal that's so damn special. And so that's what led me to the DENAS line, which was a much cheaper line of devices. And lo and behold, back in 2007, when I started working with this, we were getting similar results that we were getting with like the $3,000 and $4,000, $5,000 units. And I was going like, well, that doesn't make sense. So it really helped me to reframe and reposition myself in the way that I was working in terms of like training people and coaching people with this device, and to allow and to encourage you to use, or students to use this device a lot, because now that you have it at home and it's in your little hand here and you can use it on yourself, that's how you're going to get the results. Now, that's kind of different from the therapist working on a patient model, because you're working on yourself. Now, because you've got the unit 24/7, there's no reason actually why you couldn't be working it 24/7, unless you've got a highly compromised immune system, which would mean that you need to just work into it gently and go through the healing crises, and then the more and more electricity that you can use, which is now in Julie's case now, I guess it's like 3 and a bit months down the road for her. The more that electricity will regenerate, and let's look at the rejuvenating and the regenerative properties of this. Back in 2005-04, I think it was, shortly after I'd taken the training with Professor Ravenko, there were lots of anecdotal stuff coming in about people with hip replacements that were due, and by placing the device on the hip, they were able to literally regenerate the tissue in the hip joint so they didn't need that hip replacement. There was also knee replacement. There was also stuff with bulging discs and discs that are rubbing against one another. I forget what they're called in the spine. And in all of those situations, and we've been doing this with clients too, in all of those situations, they've been able to rejuvenate rejuvenate the tissues in, say, that joint, and so now the joint is moving freely. And this is actually kind of exciting for me. We're working with Chris Hoffman, who I was talking about before, is because when you start working with clients that are trained athletes at the world peak performance levels, you're going to get some really interesting data off that type of work, because their bodies are so highly tuned and their mindset is so highly tuned in terms of like, really being clear and really being focused on the end result of their game, that these make really, really good test subjects. Not that it needs to be tested. And why I say it doesn't need to be tested is that back in, I think it was 98, this is the first report that I read where they were doing ultramarathons in Ukraine, which is where this unit comes out of. The ENOT units come out of Ukraine. And those guys were knocking hours and sometimes days off their ultramarathon runs simply by the use of these devices. And because, I run a little bit, I don't run as much as I would like to, but I do long hikes, arduous hikes. And my body now is at a stage where I don't need to rely on, or I'm physically at a state where I don't need to take one with me, because of maybe some knee pain or shoulder pain or something like that. But I've been experimenting. I'm always experimenting with this. And one of the things that I've been working with is, is creating experiments that can talk to different market groups. So, you know, it might be golf, or it might be hiking in my situation, and so that I can communicate with those folks a little more freely and understand how it is, what it is in their bodies. My body has been my my huge experiment, largely because I got into this because I had a crippling neck injury when I was a kid, and led to lots of pain in the shoulders and the neck, and actually very painful. And it was through yoga that I was able to manage it, but it wasn't until I understood what I'm telling you about the advanced application or long-term application of these devices to the body that I really began to heal up some of these major damaged and locked in vertebrae that I have from that injury, from that accident. And that was, and you know, when you're working, so yeah, going back to when you're working on somebody, it's a very different math compared to working on yourself, and when you've got this own device. And so back in the 203, 4, 5 years, most of us were working on other folks, and it wasn't until I started to discover these very inexpensive then DENAS units that I began to realize there was another market, and that could use these less expensive devices. And when you use them a lot, in fact, if you go to YouTube and look for my name, Benedict Howard, and there's one of the videos that I have up there earlier on videos, like 606 or 07, was around me brushing down the body with these little classical DENAS units. And that actually was the beginning of understanding a completely different spectrum to what I've been taught in the classical training. So, you know, no matter what I say or what I teach, I do encourage people to use these so that they don't end up on the shelf, because that's what actually happens for most folks when they don't continue to use them. Because ongoingly you can work through different situations. And for instance, I'm not going to show this on screen right now, but I was using a power washer the other day, and I'd never used one before. And I was washing off the roof and different things outside. And by mistake, the jet from the power washer went across my knee, and instantly it took out a big swath of skin across my knee, and then trickled down, and then another big. And so I've been working with that and discovering that that's a completely different topic, and actually it's kind of an interesting one, but it's a completely different topic than I wanted to go into here. But that type of injury, so getting back to it, my body is always creating, or I'm always creating different situations in my life to experiment with. And that's actually how I found out, like with Chris's burns video, how I found out how to work with that, with his burns, and turn off the pain in 40-50 minutes. And that was a big breakthrough, because nobody that I know of or have heard of since has been able to do that. And simply it was by placing the device, the electrodes, on the nerves that are feeding underneath his third-degree burns, which are in his arms, and allowing that to trickle down. And we've been using that a lot. And that's actually one of the things that I'm really emphasizing with Chris, is to use this nerve referral thing, especially for sports injuries, because it's really effective to get into and underneath areas that are not that are difficult to get to, and you know, in the musculoskeletal groups at least. And so with this type of, you know, the people that have been coming into the training are offering or giving me new opportunities, and like Julie and John here today, they've given me new opportunities to teach what I know, and for them to learn what I know, and to pick it up and to run to another level from there with themselves. And that's what it's all about, is to really communicate this effectively, and to communicate it in a way that you understand what it is, why it is, and how to do it. And that's what makes this training so damn special, because I have lots of videos and different ways different techniques to do it. One of the things that all of these devices do, I should show this on the E911. Let's see if I can do this and see it at the same time. I'm going to turn it on. It's all back to front on the screen here. It's a little difficult. Okay, I'm going to have to do it this way. Okay, it's just powered up into what's called the Diagnostic 1. Now, this Diagnostics is really interesting. If I put my finger on here, it comes up with a number 45. Okay, these fingers look like they're all in the same sort of ballpark. 42, 65, much higher there, 77. Now, it's pretty hot in here right now, so my hand is a little sweaty, so it's allowing, it's making these numbers higher than they would normally be. But this number, that's 77, is what we call an initial reading. So if we take a comparison between, say, this side at 79 and this side at 84, we've got a significant difference between the energy that's available in these two hands. And what we can do is, actually, the higher the spot is where we would put what's called a dose, minimum effective dose in, there we go. No, I can't do that hand, but anyway, I'm going to put it on a dose set point. So what happens is that you see those different numbers there. I wish I could freeze frame this for you. The E is the energy, the F is the frequency, the V was the velocity, and this last number, 81, is the end result. So it went from a 74 to an 81, 76 to 81. And the C is a constant, and because I've left it on there, it's already dosed. And so it has, all of these units actually have this type of functioning going on in the software underneath, but only the advanced units actually show you what these values are. And you know, you don't need to know that. All the, like in this unit here, and I'm going to turn on the PCM. Actually, this is the Russian unit, which is the PCM4. And I'm going to scroll it down to what in this they call the MED. So on this one, it's very simple. And if I put this device on here and do an, oops, I've got to bring up the power. And after so many seconds, it will dose. And in fact, that case, it just took 3 seconds to dose that point in there, which is giving that area just the minimum effective dose. It's kind of like batteries. If you've got a AA battery, if you've got a AA battery like we have in here, and imagine this to be one of your cells. And when it's fully charged up, it's at 1.5 volts or thereabouts. But when it gets depleted and it needs to go in, you know, you need to recharge it, with these ones are rechargeable, then the cells are just the same. When the energy becomes depleted in the cells, that voltage around the cell membrane drops off. And so by putting this device on the skin and charging it up, it's bringing the cell membrane voltage up. Now, one of the big things that this does is it allows the cells to pump out the toxins. And for instance, when I was working on this knee injury the other night, and I'm discovering new ways to do that, and I was using the acupuncture probe all around the injury. So I was like working all around it. And there was quite a bit of swelling on it. There'd been quite a bit of oozing on it, and I was able to get right up close to around the edge of the abrasion and get in there, and within it wasn't long. I probably worked on it for 10 or 15 minutes, and this will be a subject for another training video. 10 or 15 minutes, and then everything flattened out. It had been raised because it had been swollen, and because I turned the cellular pump, all of that swelling went down. And actually, it's still this morning, it's all down and flat, so it's level with. So all of that. So by using the electricity in this case, for this type of injury, it turned on the cellular pump so it could get rid of those toxins a lot more effectively and a lot quicker. And that is an indicator of what's going on in your rest of your system. If you have, you know, if you're carrying fluids in your body. It's about turning them back on that cellular pump and getting those fluids out. So the electricity does a lot of things that, it's not really frequency dependent upon, although it does do different things. Like we use the higher frequencies to numb out pain and the lower frequencies to slow down the brain waves, for instance. All sorts of brainwave entrainment we can do with this as well. It's a phenomenal subject. It's actually kind of complicated, but the basic application isn't. It's like wherever there's pain, you put it on there and off you go. Or wherever there's discomfort, you can put it on there. Or if you, for instance, I went through last week, I was going through I've decided in this lifetime not only to work with this stuff, but to work against the corporate legal system that we have, and to try and bring it back to what was originally intended in the Constitution, and challenge the judges and the courts with this. And so last week I was due back in court over a credit card debt, and so the other side had put in a motion for summary judgment, and I was going like, how do I get around this? I need more time with the courts to really explain the situation, and also more time to get inside of myself to come across and be able to communicate it effectively and fairly to the court, and in a way that they can understand without, to me, all of this stuff is about, these paradigm shifts are about working within a system in order to create results that other people can recognize as being a better way of doing it. And so that's what I'm attempting. So last week, I'm attempting with the court. So last week, I was in fear around this. Past life stuff, it comes up. I was in fear around it. And the fear resides in your kidneys, but also in the blocked solar plexus. And so I was using the device. Actually, I put some pads on and put it across my stomach there on the solar plexus. And within half an hour or so, it was like everything cleared out. And all of the chatter and the fear and I can't do this, I'm going to go to jail doing this, all sort of dissipated, and I was able to get back on track, and then a lot of other things started to fall into place. But when you're in that fear mode, not when you're out of love, but in that fear mode, then things contract. And when you can expand it, just like with my son, when he was like in his rage, and then I put him on the table and I work his back, and then he comes out and he goes like, and then goes out and plays again. It's like nothing happened. And so when you're in that fear mode, things contract, and then the universe can't respond to you in the same way. And that's what happened to me last week. So it was like handy to have this device to be able to do that and to work with it that way. So back to the paradigm shift, and to close out here, the biggest issue to me as to why this type of technology hasn't gone to where it could go to is because it really needs to be marketed well. And when you have systems like these scanner devices that could change the face of medicine very rapidly, in my opinion, in a matter of a year or two or three, we could change the face of medicine completely. It does. It really relies on the success of that. Really relies on how one talks to and how one indoctrinates folks into embracing whatever it is. And so sales and marketing has been huge as to why, well, the lack of sales and marketing has been huge. Why these devices out of Russia haven't gone way bigger than they have, and so that is that's what I see as being the issue here. It's not that they don't work. It's really about how do you market, or how do you talk about, and how do you get around all of the legalities of supporting people to basically go medically sovereign, and work on themselves instead of relying on outside sources of indoctrination in the case of our medical system in the US, and so that they can get those results. And of course that determines a lot within your own structure, and that's a big shift as well, taking back that sort of power and that sort of faith in, you know, God and self, rather than in the system that's out there. And so I do encourage, you know, whoever's like watching this video, to really get that there are not only the scanner, there are other technologies out there that are phenomenal for working with health issues. And you know, the best thing is to experiment. And in that experimentation, you're going to learn stuff, and it's going to come to a stage where you need to be taught. You know, people say, "Oh, I don't need any scanner training," and I thought that myself for the first year. I didn't get any scanner training at all. I had a unit that was lent to me in London, and I worked on my clients. I saw dramatic results. I didn't understand how we were getting them or why electricity does what it does, such as I shared with you on this call, on this Hangout. And then I took the training with Professor Ravenko. I took the first level, the second level, and the third level, master level of Professor Ravenko. And it took me kind of like down a path, and it allowed me the tools to work on others, but it still didn't explain what was going on. And I'm the kind of guy like really likes to know why it is what it is. And so when I started working with these other devices and realizing that it wasn't necessarily the signal at all, it was all in the application, then things just blossomed to a whole new level. And it's been a great pleasure and, you know, trial as well, but a pleasure to be able to work with people and to help them in ways that we've been helping them. And you know, Julie and John there are both witness to that. So thank you guys. I think let's keep it at that. And eBodyFUSION.com is the website. Basically, my main gig is my only gig in this field is with the training and the coaching. And I'm going to be probably phasing out of the selling of the units. I'm not sure yet, but because the scanner trademark issue is an issue, and until I can prevail with scanner as a corporation to get off my back around, you know, using the word scanner, you know, why can't I use the word scanner? I'm comparing devices. I'm giving reviews. You know, it's craziness. And if they do prevail and they shut me down, we will see. I mean, I've told them from a legal standpoint where I stand, and I'm actually just last week, which is the big, huge one, I did get a private attorney general on my side. So that is pretty huge, because that's what we need to do, is to really make sure that people that know this technology and sharing this technology have the legal protection, because obviously it's going to upset the apple carts for the pharmacies and the medical systems, as we know, as this gets bigger and bigger. And that's where I really want to see it grow. So aloha, my name is Benedict Howard, and thank you, Julie, for coming on in. And it's just a pleasure to be with you and have you in the training, and John and others there too. Where's John gone? And then we'll take it from there. And so again, big congratulations to you guys for getting through the Ninja 1 and the Ninja 2 programs. And Julie, let's get some more data on your Ninja 3 stuff, and then we can begin to discuss that and help you understand what it is when we're doing that work too. So aloha, bye bye from Hawaii.